All right, here we go. Week 14. How was Labor Day for you, Jess?
Well, pretty poor, John. It's, I had 1 and 3 rather, coming off of a 0-4 week last week. Good God, after that third game, I just thought to myself, why am I such a loser this season? Yeah, well, good thing you're hosting the show, John. I'm supposed to be the expert, but gosh, I'm worried I'm going to get fired. Okay, picture this scenario. There's a homeless guy with a cat. And in this scenario, I'm the homeless guy and you're the cat. And one day the cat looks around and says, this buddy, I can do this all by myself. See you never again.
What's the cat need you for?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're like, yeah, John can do the show by himself. He's picking way better. But at least some redemption. The very last game of the week, Edmonton beat Calgary handily.
No, you lost that game. Yeah, you picked Calgary. You were all down on McLeod Bethel Thompson. You said he was crap.
I was down on him.
We were both hopeful that Trey Ford was going to come and play in that game. He was healthy, but he didn't start. And McLeod somehow came through for me and screwed you.
He did. They were saying after the game it was best game in his CFL career, stat-wise. With Trey Ford sitting on the bench, would be ready to go in case of an emergency, but they wanted to still wait one more week before putting Ford back in. With Bethel Thompson doing what he did, going to create a little bit of a quarterback controversy in Edmonton, which is actually, it's good for the Elks.
I think there's been quarterback controversy all year in Edmonton. The Edmonton fan base has not been happy about McLeod being out there. How about the start of Labor Day and seeing that Victoria Field on TV, Touchdown Pacific? It looked awesome.
It did look really, really good.
I wish I was there. Should have bought tickets.
Me too. It sold out. The best we could do with it being the watch party out in the parking lot.
I mean, you and I were talking about it back in February. Like, we knew it was coming. We should have just been on the ball and picked up tickets. And BC came out way on top. And you think it has something to do with Ottawa's travel schedule? Like, maybe that screwed them in the end?
Yeah, and I was trying to get a hold of the Red Blacks to find out what their schedule was. Seriously, if they flew from Ottawa to YVR, that's almost a 6-hour flight. I've done it twice. Then if they actually flew into YVR and then took a bus onto a ferry, they would have been like 11, 12 hours of travel.
Yeah, the ferries are a nightmare. And I can't imagine that the brass of the Ottawa Red Blacks put them on a ferry. They would have needed to get there well before the sailing, and they would have been hanging around, wasting time, farting around on a ferry for 2 hours.
But you're right. They would have been sitting around. They would have had to make sure they were early enough for their reservations and so forth. YVR to Tsawwassen, that's like a 40-minute drive at least. Yeah, I think that was probably what they did. I'm just guessing, but
BC was fired up for that game. Mr. Doman heading back home, Nathan's hometown. There was no chance they were going to lose that game, I don't think. I know you were hopeful to change it up and bet on the Red Blacks last week. You lost the bet, but your team won, so you still win.
At the end of the day, I was quite happy to see that victory. Nathan Rourke looks like he's comfortable in the Lions' den now after 3 games.
Before we get into next week, let's break this down a little. Presently, I'm sitting 29 and 23 for the season. I went 3-1 last week. You're sitting 22 and 30, first of us to hit the 30s, and you went 1-3 last week.
Oh.
Before we get into all the picks this week, what's your process for listeners when they're like, okay, how does Jess come up with these picks? Because right now, some listeners might be deciding, you know what, I'll just pick the opposite of Raspberry.
Yeah, well, if you've done that so far, you'd be up like you are. My process, I watch all the games. I read up on tsn.ca, injury reports and so forth for key players. Other than that, I try and go with my gut.
Yeah, so often bets come down to your gut. You just have a feeling like if you had all the data, then you would never be wrong. So your gut has to play into it somehow. Week 13 is behind us. Let's look forward to week 14. BC Lions and Montreal. This, I think, is a preview of the 111th Grey Cup, is it not?
I think so. I was thinking that as well. That's what I picked, BC and Montreal to play in BC Place at the end of November. Well, the Lions, as they've struggled, they look really good against Ottawa. I'm taking them. Hopefully they come through.
Montreal's coming off their bye week. There's going to be that bye week hangover. And Montreal might be going in a little overconfident, thinking that they got this one in the bag. And who knows? They could. This could be like a 48-16 game. I just don't think it's going to be. I think BC is going to surprise. Nathan's going to come out hot. Then bam, we're up 3.5 points and we're both winning on this bet because I, like you, am taking the BC Lions. Go BC.
Right on. Yeah. I agree with the two things you said there about the break and are they going to come back tired? Like, hopefully, half the team went to Las Vegas or maybe Atlantic City because it's kind of closer. They come back a little lethargic because, you have that time off. You're not practicing on the field every single day. You're out, mingling and stuff.
And if there's one thing that young professional athletic males like to do, it's mingle.
Or they go to the Roxy till 3:00 in the morning.
BC's got wind in their sails. I think they're going to do well this game. It's going to be exciting. So that takes us to game 2, Toronto and Ottawa. I was looking at the Ottawa stats because it's well known that they're undefeated at home. Their home opponents year to date have been every team in the West, which at 6-6 or worse isn't that impressive, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats, game 1 at home. So they haven't really faced like a proper foe at home. And I think Ottawa is going to stumble badly in this one, and Toronto's going to come out ahead. Toronto also gets 1.5 points. For some reason, they're the underdog heading into Ottawa. And if I had bags of money, I'd be putting it on this game, because I think this is the one, and there's always one, where the spread makers just get it wrong. And that's this game this week.
John, I thought you did have bags of money. But anyway, the Boatmen got sunk by the Tabbies last week. Ottawa, I think, is going to rebound after touchdown Pacific. I'm taking the Red Blacks to cover.
Is that a lot of gut, or is that more stats?
Well, a bit of both. And from what I have seen them play, I'm really impressed with Ottawa. And I actually think they're going to finish second in the East now. Like previously said, Toronto would be second. I think Ottawa's going to be second. Yeah, and then Toronto will still make the playoffs at third, and Tabbies are crap, and they don't have a hope in hell.
The Tabbies are cooked. Game 3, we got a rematch. This is the actual Banjo Bowl. So the Banjo Bowl is happening this weekend. Saskatchewan is the underdog heading into Winnipeg. Winnipeg looks really banged up. I don't think they have a quarterback. I think Big Hill's out. It's a bit surprising that Saskatchewan isn't the favorite, and they're actually getting points in this game. It's hard to beat a team twice. I got to go with Saskatchewan. I don't think the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to beat them twice.
This upcoming game is the real Banjo Bowl. And it's funny because my next door neighbor is a huge Bombers fan, even though he's from Vancouver. His wife is from Regina. My friend next door was calling that game on Labor Day weekend the Banjo Bowl. But no, the real Banjo Bowl is in Winnipeg, not Regina. It could be in both places. What's the difference?
I haven't been to either city. You've been to both, eh?
Yeah. Saskatchewan was funner. Winnipeg was scary. So me and 3 friends from Greater Vancouver flew out to Winnipeg for what was the 97 Grey Cup, I believe. And I was barely 19 years old and able to drink. And my older friends were, well, they're older. We check into our hotel, and then we go to the closest pub we can find. The bartender, the waitress, was kind of rude to us at first, and she's, ID'd all of us. We gave up, showed her IDs. Everyone was fine. We all order like a pint of beer a piece or whatever. She brings the beers back, and she's like, you guys look like really nice boys. You're not from around here, are you? Like, we're in BC Lions jerseys and shit. Like, yeah, no, we just got here like 2 hours ago. And she's like, well, I just want to give you some advice. If I were you, I would drink up these beers and get out of here. And when you do, don't make a left, turn right, and walk back to your hotel area. The left is no good. And we're like, holy fuck, what are you talking about? And then she says, if you go to the washroom before you leave, bring a friend with you. 2 of you go in together. I don't think any of us drank a beer faster than that. Whereas in Saskatchewan's Grey Cup, my buddy and I went to the parade, and there was a guy on a horse that went into the beer garden and grabbed a beer on the horse. He didn't even get off the horse.
Who are you picking on this game?
I'm taking the Bombers to cover the 2.5 points.
Even though they have no quarterback? Like, who's going to be starting for them?
I don't know. I don't care.
I mean, they are the mediocre Saskatchewan Roughriders, more so this season than ever.
Yeah, the final game of the triple header on Saturday.
Yeah, triple header on Saturday, so no Sunday games. They don't want to go up against the NFL.
Correct.
So the Lions are going up against the NFL on Friday. There's an extra NFL game this Friday.
Oh, really?
The Calgary Stampeders are heading into this final game on Saturday for Week 14 with an extra 2.5 points. So they're the underdogs. It's a back-to-back. Can you beat a team twice? This is like the former BC Lion quarterback coaches up against each other. Jarius, I think he's going to win again. It just seems like Calgary is playing so poorly right now.
I agree.
I can't believe I'm betting on Edmonton to win a game.
I know, especially when they're giving up 2.5 points.
That's right. I've bet on them to win games with points, and they've lost by just enough to make me look good.
Yeah, but as we were saying earlier on in the season, even when it started out 0-4, they don't look as bad as their 0-4 record. Yeah, they've picked it up, and they got two quarterbacks that are going to be fighting each other for that starting position. That's going to be awesome. Yeah, and I'm taking Edmonton as well.
But I look at Calgary, and there was just nothing that was positive from last week's game, which is probably why they're going to win this upcoming game, because they looked so poor and they're going to turn it around. And
like I said, I'm a big Dickinson fan, and it was a cool little shot that TSN had before that game. Dickinson was standing there talking to Jarius Jackson and G. Roy Simon, and they all used to be BC Lions.
You know what? Betting is about taking risk, and I'm up 7 games on you right now. I've got a little room to play with here. I'm going to go Calgary, so you can have Edmonton. I'm going to hope for the bounce back.
Are you just doing that to risk something and try and one up me?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't give a shit about the actual game. You're just going because I said Edmonton, you're going Calgary and hoping for the best.
Kinda, but I was also sort of talking myself into it. If anyone's going to have a bounce back game off the bottom of last week, why not Calgary? I don't think it's going to be Ottawa. They had a terrible game last week. So it's a bit of both. It's kind of my process. I like to bet the opposite of you, but I also like to trust my gut.
We'll see how the Battle of Alberta shakes out. That should be a really good match, actually.
Well, Week 14, we're past Labor Day, so this is like the meat and potatoes now at the CFL. And there's so much competition out there for eyeballs between college football, the WNBA, NFL, you name it.
I don't think too many CFL fans are clicking off to watch the WNBA. Maybe college football, but yeah, that's the end of Sunday games until the Grey Cup. Even the playoffs are on Saturdays.
Yeah, there's no point competing with the NFL. They're just too big. They draw too many eyeballs. Broadcasters pay too much money to put their product on TV. They're not going to pay all that money and then put the Alouettes versus Edmonton on. Forget it. Any other news this week, Jess? Anything else you want to talk about?
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for Week 14. And just to let our listeners know, John and I went out crabbing last weekend in Howe Sound, and we laid out 4 traps. I bet on trap number 2 having the most crabs, and John bet on the most crabs in trap number 3. I won that side bet. There was more crabs in trap number 2.
You're coming out ahead with all the side bets this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're not helping me out with my CFL picks.
If we end up with the tie, we'll use them as tiebreaker.
And if the Lions beat Montreal in the Grey Cup, I'll take a losing record. How's that?
That's the game I'm looking forward to the most, is that Friday night game at 4:30. It's going to be sweet.
We'll see how real the Lions are. I think it's kind of a make or break for the Lions, see how real they are.
If you want to write the show, you can at placeonthe55pod@gmail.com. Sweet Jess, we'll talk to you next week.
You got it.